Hello, I'm Miss May.
And I'm Miss Jones.
And welcome to our early reading and phonics workshop for parents. We're hoping to give you lots of information today about early reading and phonics. But if you have any questions after the presentation, please email us. So there are key skills which come before phonics and reading. The first is communication and language. So within that, we need to focus on high quality interactions right from the moment a child is born. So focusing on lots of rhymes, lots of storytelling, and also talking to children because it exposes them to lots of different vocabulary. We need to play with children. So where adults clearly enjoy the process of being engaged and playing with your child, and again, it encourages lots of important vocabulary. Commentary, so commenting on when a child is playing. So for example, a child might say to you, I have a cat, and then you could repeat that with added vocabulary. So for example, I have a black cat. Again, encouragement, engagement with talking. So as we said before, role play, storytelling is key. And this is where oral storytelling comes in, which we do a lot of within the unit. We will set up tough trays with key stories. For example, the 3 Little Pigs. We will have 3 pigs with some bricks, sticks, and hay. And we encourage children to retell the familiar stories. But then once they become confident with that, they will then make up their own story. So they might change the wolf in the 3 Little Pigs for a troll. And then there are songs, rhymes, and poems to encourage that communication and language with the child. And lastly, within communication and language, we have the awareness of print in the environment. So commenting on all the print around you, whether that's if you're out for a walk and you comment on the numbers of houses, or if you're out in Tesco shopping and you're commenting on familiar print on foods in the shop. We then move on to physical development, and there's lots to this, but the key for us today is balance and proprioception. So without balance, we cannot expect somebody to concentrate on more complex skills. So proprioception is the awareness of your body within a space. So this needs to be well developed in order to engage with the environment around us. And also it then leads to our eye movements and visual perception, which is linked to the balance and obviously key for reading. So the physical development must come first before we then can develop phonics and reading to become successful.
So when we actually look at the core skills of learning to read, because our principal way of teaching children to read is through systematic synthetic phonics, the children are going to need the ability to hear and manipulate the individual sounds that make up each word. For example, rat is made up of at. Then the next thing we need to look at is recognizing the connection between the actual shape of the letter and the sound that letter makes. So the letter S looks like this and makes a S sound. Vocabulary is so important because understanding the meaning of words and their context within a text means that this is where the important skills of reading comprehension come in. If you don't understand the words and their context within the text that they're reading, you have no reading comprehension. You won't be able to understand the meaning. And then fluency. The more children are exposed to the phonics that we teach here, and the more what we call grapheme phoneme correspondences they know. So they know that the letter S makes a sound. They know that the letter A makes an A sound. The better their speed and their accuracy will be when they're decoding. And the last thing, and I can't stress this enough, we want them to enjoy reading. We don't want them to find it a chore. So when we give out books for the children to read themselves, what we want are texts that are accessible so they can decode them, but with just that extra little bit of challenge in them, so they're just slightly harder, which means that that sense of achievement that the child has when they've read a book all by themselves will be huge.
So by the end of reception, we expect children to be at the yellow band. Please try not to compare your child to other children within the reception unit or with where siblings were at a similar age. We want you to trust us and to talk to us so that we can support you and then support your child with their individual needs. We need to remember that it's not a race. And the majority of children will reach yellow band by the end of reception. Some children, it just takes a little longer for them to get there, but that's okay. So children will be bringing home, to start with, lilac books, which are a wordless picture book, if you like, for you to sit and discuss the story with the child, for them to look at the pictures, for you to start using the vocabulary involved in telling a story. They will then move on to pink books, which is where an element of sort of slight decoding comes in. We'll also be sending home reading diaries and flashcards. And we just want you to pop in whatever you happen to do with your child in your reading diary each week. If you've done a bit of extra phonics work with them at home, can you pop that in so that we know? If they have noticed something amazing, pop that in so that we know. If you've done some work with the flashcards, because not all of our words in English are also decodable. English is a rich and complex language. And we have what are known as tricky words, like I, the, no, which aren't actually decodable. They're just words that the children read on sight. Okay, so now we're going to model to you an interaction between a teacher and a child with a lilac book. So on the screen, you can see a picture of a book which doesn't have any words at all. So the key focus is communication and language for this. So Miss Jones is going to become the teacher, and I, Miss May, is going to be the child, and we're just going to model what could happen with this story.
Come on, Gemma, let's sit down and have a look at this lovely book. Oh, let's have a look at this picture here. I wonder what's happening with the little boy in the picture.
Oh, he's in such a mess.
It does look very messy. What can you see all over the picture that's making it look so messy?
I can see some what looks like paper on the floor, and he's got, is it plasters all over him?
Do you know what I think he's managed to get stuck all over him? If you look at what's in his hand, it's a circular roll and he's pulling some stuff off it. What is it?
It's tape.
It is. And if you look, he hasn't got plaster stuck all over him. He's got tape on his forehead, on his nose, on his ear. Oh, no. Why on earth has he got so much tape stuck all over him?
It looks like he's trying to wrap up a present.
Oh, no. I think he might have got in a bit of a pickle. How does his face look? Can you tell me how he feels?
I think he's sad.
I think he's got in a bit of a pickle. What do we think he can do to make himself feel better?
He could ask his mummy for help.
I think that's a good idea. Is that what you do at home?
Yes.
Yes. So if he goes and asks his mummy for help, what do you think mummy can do? What do you think's going to happen in the book?
I think mummy will come and help him.
And what will she do?
Maybe wrap the present for him?
I think that's a very good idea. Shall we find out? Shall we turn the page?
Yes.
Yes.
So as you can see, there was lots of communication and vocabulary there, prediction, so asking the child, what do you think is going to come next in the story? Lots of asking, how do you think that character's feeling? So inference, and then also drawing from what the child can see on the page as well.
And lots of open-ended questions, lots of I wonder why and how does this happen, gives a broader range, if you like, of answers from the child.
So here is another example of a lilac book, so a book without words. This one's slightly different. So it's got the picture, and then on the right-hand side, it's got some questions which the adult may or may not ask. Please don't feel limited to these questions. I'm sure you will have lots of other questions which you can ask your child at home.
And here we've got another example of a book. And you can see at the top of both pages, one of them says adult, and this is the bit that the adult reads out. And then on the other page, it says child. So on the adult page at the bottom, you'll see that there are, if you like, guidance questions, things that that will encourage communication and language, and a dialogue about the book. And also sometimes we'll link it to the child's own life. So they're making those links between what's in the book and also their own preferences in life. So widening their experiences.
We then move on to fully decodable texts. So these are texts which your child will be able to sound out as we start teaching the sounds. So for example, on the left page, we have I am Pam, but your child may read this like I am Pam. Now, as we mentioned earlier, every single child will be at a different stage, so please don't compare them. Your child may not be able to read I because it's what we call a tricky word, which we will come on to later. For am, they might be able to recognise both sounds, so but they might need your help to blend it.
Which means stick the sounds together.
Yes. But they also may not be able to recognise some of the sounds, and that's okay. And that's where also you need to support them with that.
As they move on through the books that they can decode, the words in the book become trickier, they become longer. There are less CVC words, like, for example, at, a consonant, vowel, consonant word, which are the easiest words to blend, where we stick the sounds in the word together to make a word. And we call this richer reading. So they're trickier to decode, and there will be more non-decodable words in there. So, for example, a child can't decode the word build because the phonemes don't work. The phonemes that we teach don't work in the word build. So there are words that they will possibly need help with, and please help them if they're not sure.
Again, it's about exposing them to that vocabulary, isn't it, Miss Jones? So that then
absolutely.
They use that within the classroom.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you have lots of questions in regard to reading. So when, what, where, and how should it happen? So we say daily, it should happen daily if possible. We do recognise that lives are really busy and this may not happen every day, but it's about trying to be consistent and finding a special time with your child to sit down and read, whether that's just before bedtime or just before dinner time. As long as you've got a special time and it's almost not rushed through, it's giving the child opportunity to sit down and read a story with you. We do recommend a minimum of 4 times a week, but this does not just have to be sitting down and reading a book. It may be flashcards, so playing a game with the flashcards, like turning them over and guessing the sound, or going on a sound hunt around the home. So what objects can you find beginning with S around the home? It could be tricky word practice. So tricky words are words which the child cannot sound out. For example, the, I, no, go, to, into. They have to be able to recognise them by sight. They can't sound them out. Please don't feel that you have to sit with your child and read the whole book, because it is about enjoyment. And if you sit down and make them read the whole book, they won't be enjoying reading. So it's just a couple of pages, just enough to keep it going and to reinforce what we're teaching in school.
So yeah, this is where you listen to your child. And if your child says, I don't want to do anymore, I've had enough, then give them that break. And reading isn't actually just about the decodable books that we send home. It's also really crucial that you spend time reading quality children's literature to your child, because this is where the vocabulary build-up happens. This is where the really interesting stories happen. I wouldn't expect a child to sit down and be able to read your average Julia Donaldson book, but I've not yet met a child that doesn't absolutely love having them read to them. So please continue to read great books to your child.
And just going on what Miss Jones said, we do read Julia Donaldson books in class, but we might miss out some words, for example, the rhyming words, and then your child will be able to say what word you've missed out. And again, it's building that vocabulary and also getting them to recognise key skills like rhyming.
So book changing. We will change all of children's books on a Friday. However, if your child has read their book 2 or 3 times and we're totally okay with that, they can absolutely keep the same book for a week and reread it if they want, particularly if it is a favourite book. Then if they're done with the book during the week, they can come in and change it. Please let your child know so that they come in and let us know in the morning that they're ready to have their book changed, and we can send them off to change it. And like I've said, if they bring home a book that they've already read and you go, again, it's okay. If necessary, we could send home 2 books, one that they've already read and a new one, because as an adult, I'm on my 3rd edition of some of my favourite books because my first 2 have fallen apart. I've had to buy them more than once. It's okay to have a favourite book, but this is where your joy of reading comes in, and that's what we want to foster in small children.
So how does phonics work at our school? So we have daily inputs, which will last up to 20 minutes. We focus on 4 sounds a week in phase 2 and 2 sounds a week in phase 3. This is because the sounds get a bit more trickier when we get to phase 3, but we'll be showing you those in a second. Within our phonics lessons, we also focus on tricky word cards. So remember, those are the words that we read by sight. We can't sound them out.
The I, the no, the go, the to.
Yeah. And then we've got reading and spelling focus. But the key to all of our phonics inputs is talking. So children being able to say the sounds and being able to pronounce them correctly. And we do lots of learning through games, play and exploration. So we use a government document called Letters and Sounds to progress through phonics through reception and year 1. The children will start off on phase 2 sounds, which is where we get what we call a single letter sound. And as they get into phase 3, they'll see things like digraphs and trigraphs, which we are going to come on to in a minute. We've got resources from Jolly Phonics, which are very well named because it's very jolly. It's very lovely. We will keep you updated on the sounds that the children are learning, and we do the phonics not simply by sitting and saying this is the letter S, it makes us sound. Lots of songs, lots of actions to go with the sounds all help to embed these grapheme phoneme correspondences in the children's memories. So we have some examples of some sounds now on the screen. So this is what we call the first set within phase 2, which your child will be learning. So as you can see, we've got the letter name S on the screen, but it makes the sound S. And the picture is of a snake because the song is to do with the snake is in the grass, and we do the action as though it's a snake moving around. And it just helps children that are more visual to help remember the sound as well. So these are single sounds within phase 2. As we move on, we then start teaching what we call digraphs. So it's 2 letters, but it makes 1 sound. So for example, you can see on the screen, we've got the snake again. That is a long s, like in hiss or bliss. And it's teaching children that we write both of those letters, but it only makes 1 sound. When we're sounding out hiss, for example, we are not sounding out h, I, s, s. We're going h, I, s.
And also, as they move on through the phonics progression, children learn, if you like, the spelling rules. So they will learn that a double S sound, the long s, never starts a word. So they'll know never to put it at the start of a word when they start to write for themselves. And then we come on to digraphs, which is where we take 2 single letters, stick them together, and it makes 1 sound, like shh.
And it's really important that we are pronouncing those sounds correctly, because as soon as you add on an so if we say sh instead of sh,
or ch instead of ch,
children start to hear extra sounds which are in a word which aren't there. So it's really important that we're getting the pronunciation correct.
And we will be signposting you to some websites later on where you can have a look and listen to the sounds.
We then have some sounds which are called trigraphs. So that is 3-letter sounds. So there's 3 letters, but it makes 1 sound. For example, on the screen, we have A, I, and R. Together, it makes the air sound, like in chair
or hair.
These are some videos which we'll put the links up for you to watch at a later time. Again, to just make sure that you are pronouncing the sounds correctly, or that your child is pronouncing them correctly.
So these are what we call letters and sound maps that we put out for the children. You can see that we have the individual letters on the top, and underneath we have a picture of something that the sound starts the word with. So socks under s, apple under a, tomato under t, and so on.
So as you can see, the orange sounds are phase 2, which we will start with, and then we will move on to phase 3, which is the purple sounds. And as you can see, they become more challenging. So it is the digraphs, the sounds with 2 letters, and trigraphs, the sounds with 3 letters. So now it is your turn to have a go. So we've got 2 activities for you to have a go at home. So the first activity, we have lots of different pictures on the screen. We would like you to have a go at writing down the word and thinking about how many phonemes are in the word. So if we do the first one together, the first one is a picture of a spoon. So if we sound out the word spoon, sp, oo, n, we have 4 sounds. And there you can see on the screen, it's broken down because the oo is a digraph. So even though it's 2 letters, it makes 1 sound.
If we come on to the next picture, you can see that the woman is pointing to her chin. So if we break the word chin down into its sounds, we find it has 3 sounds because we have ch, I, n.
Now I'd like you to pause the video and have a go at home, and then play it again to find out the answers. Now we move on to our second activity. So for this second activity, I would like you to put the sound buttons under these words. So we'll do the first one together. So we've got sigh. So if I sound out sigh, s, I know there are 2 sounds. So the sound buttons look like this on sigh. We've got 1 dot because it's a single sound, s, and then a line to show the trigraph, because all those letters make one sound.
And in the word speed, we have speed. And you'll find quite often that when you have two consonants together that needs to be blended, a child quite often, when hearing the word, will miss out one of the consonants because one of them sounds much louder than the other. So quite often in the word speed, a child might write peed or seed, but will miss out one, most often the P, because it's what we call an unstressed sound in the word. Don't worry about it if they do that.
So we have given you a lot of information within this workshop, and we understand that English language and phonics and early reading is not the easiest thing in the world. We are here to help you and to support your child. So please, if you ever have any questions, please just ask us on the gate, or feel free to email us at eyfs@gloryfarmschool.co.uk. We are always more than happy to help. And thank you for taking the time to watch this.
And happy reading, everyone.
Bye.